Global Teaching Excellence, XP and the World Association for Sport Management has joined together to launch the Global Teaching Excellence, an initiative aimed at people who are passionate about learning and teaching. Communication is the heartbeat of sports, the invisible thread that connects athletes, coaches, and fans. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed panelists, distinguished guests, and fellow sports enthusiasts, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and namaskar. It's truly an honor to be here today as we gather to delve into a topic that lies the heart of what makes sport and physical education so special, so impactful, effective communication. I'm Usha Nair. I'll be a moderator for this insightful panel discussion. In the world of sports and physical education, communication isn't just about words. It's about the connection we form, the teamwork we cultivate, and the communities we build. Today, we have assembled a panel of experts who bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to shed light on connecting athletes, coaches, and communities, the power of effective communication in sports and PE. The significance of this topic cannot be overstated, whether on the field, in the gym, or within our neighborhoods. The way we communicate plays a pivotal role in creating champions, fostering inclusivity, and promoting well-being. We have our esteemed panelists. I would take this opportunity to introduce our panelist, Jen Seger Andersen from Denmark, a journalist, international director, and founder of Play the Game, an initiative focused on enhancing sports ethical standards. Play the Game promotes transparency, freedom of expression, and democratic values in global sports. With 11 conferences and research efforts, Play the Game addresses corruption, match fixing, doping, and sports participation policies. Anderson led projects like the Sports Governance Observer, analyzing governance in Olympic federations. He chaired the Consultative Committee for the Enlarged Partial Agreement on Sport in the Council of Europe and is a respected speaker in international sport conferences. Beyond his organization endeavors, Anderson is an engaged sports political commentator, a sought-after international speaker. He has graced numerous high-level conferences hosted by UNESCO, Council of Europe, European Union, sharing his insights on matters pertaining to sport integrity and governance. Our next panelist, Dr. Rosa Dickert-Miller, who's an assistant professor at the University of Vienna, specializing in sports pedagogy and gender studies, with diverse academic background and extensive experience as a teacher. With a PhD in sports science, she has been associated with the University of Vienna since 2001. Her primary areas of research and teaching include sport pedagogy, gender and diversity studies, and health promotion. She serves as the president of the International Association of Physical Education and Sports for Girls and Women, and also held key positions in Austrian sports organizations. She's a tireless advocate for gender equity in sports, having founded the Austrian platform Women in Sports in 1997. She actively participates in various European and national projects related to gender equity and health promotion in sports setting. She has a multifaceted contributions to the world of sports, academia, and gender equity make her an influential figure in her field, promoting positive change and inclusivity. I have to make a special mention, since Rosa had taken over, I'm sure IPASGOE has gained visibility across various forums. So hats off to you. We have Professor Branislav Antlova, who's from Slovakia, could be joining us later, a renowned scholar in physical education and sports sciences, holds a master's and doctorate degree from Communist University in Slovakia. Currently, he's a professor at the Communist University, a meritorious professor at the University of Zagreb, Croatia, and a visiting professor at the Beijing University, China. His expertise include physical education, sport pedagogy, assessment, and sport management, with a notable record of 250 scientific articles, 6 edited books, and numerous international lectures. He serves on the editorial boards of 12 international journals and has coordinated the national and international research projects. Additionally, he holds a key role in international sports education organization, including FIEP. He is the president of FIEP and also a member of ICSP. He has received multiple prestigious awards for his contribution to physical education worldwide, a leading figure for the World Survey of Physical Education. Dr. Soni John from India is an accomplished associate professor at the Christ College, Irinjalukada, Kerala, India, specializing in sports psychology. He holds a PhD from Victoria University, Melbourne, and is a certified sports psychology practitioner with extensive experience in applied sports psychology. Dr. Soni has served as a sports psychologist for the Indian national archery team, contributing to their success in numerous competitions. In 2023 alone, he played a pivotal role in the team's achievement of 15 international gold medals. Hats off to you, Soni. Additionally, his expertise has benefited the Kerala team, the state team, including those in athletics, archery, women volleyball, rowing, swimming, kabaddi, during the Khelo India Games in 2019. And his expertise encompasses imagery applications, communication strategies, goal setting, and much more. He's presented research at various international conferences, received numerous awards, fellowship for his outstanding contribution in the field of sports psychology. Professor Anil Ramachandran is an esteemed academic and administrator in the field of physical education and sports sciences. Boasts over 25 years of experience, presently serving as a professor and head of the School of Physical Education and Sports Science at Kannur University, Kerala. He holds a PhD in physical education from Jivaji University. In addition to his academic administrative roles, he actively participates in Masters Badminton Championship. For the information for all of you, he had just returned yesterday after participating in the World Badminton Championship. Again, Anilar, congratulations for that. And his international presence is marked by invited talks to Switzerland, Thailand, paper presentations, Brazil, China, Australia, and field through his research publications. Professor Anil Ramachandran is a multifaceted professional who excels in academics, administration, sports, with a focus on physical education and sports. I'm sorry, Brody, I think you will have to give a demo. I missed out yours. I'd request you, if you could give a brief introduction of yourself before we started. I'm sorry, because that came in later. Please.
That's fine. Good morning here. My name is Brody Ruley. I'm an associate professor in sport leadership and management at Miami University in the state of Ohio in the United States. And I teach sport communication. My research area really lies in different ancillary materials within sports. So that could be fantasy sport, sports betting, and public relations in sport. But good to be here. Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry, because I'm sorry I couldn't bring that. But to start without wasting time, I would start without wasting much of our time. We start with the sports communication expert. So, Professor Brody, the first question is for you, please. Can you provide insights into the fundamental role of communication in the world of sports? How does it impact not only the athletes, but also the broader sports industry?
This is a very big question. It really depends on the context that we want to examine communication in sport. If we think all the way down to the athlete, we can talk about interpersonal communication, that sports psychology, which I know we have experts in the panel talking about sports psychology, but that communication within ourselves. When we think about interpersonal communication between players, between coaches and players, even between administrators and the team, there's so many different ways that we can see communication play out in the sport field. Personally, I coach a lot of youth sport, and communication is so key to chat with young children and even their parents, right? Because their parents have expectations, and it's important to clarify roles. But when we think about this international setting, we would have to think about mass communication and what is happening in the world of sport, whether it be television contracts, streaming rights, social media playing out in the world of sport. And it's connecting all of us in ways that we've never thought were possible, but we are now connected in so many different ways thanks to mass media. And I'll open up to other panelists there to chime in as well.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Over to Rosa. What are the unique communication challenges and barriers that women and girls often face in the world of sports? And how can effective communication help address these challenges?
Thank you, Usha, for this very important question, as gender-related barriers in sports are indeed prevalent, and women and girls often face challenges such as stereotypes, unequal opportunities in sports on different levels, but also the lack of representation. And so one key communication challenge is, of course, dispelling the stereotypes and biases. And if you want to do effective communication that helps to address these barriers, it needs to promote awareness, advocate for change, and foster a supportive environment that encourages their participation. So this is one aspect. Another aspect is that communication strategies must be as well inclusive, and they have to acknowledge the unique experiences of girls and women from diverse backgrounds. So to recognize and celebrate the different differences within the group of girls and women. And of course, it's the media which plays an important role in shaping these perceptions. And if you want to empower via media communication, it needs to highlight female achievements, stories, and challenges as unbiased, with positive portrayals that also can inspire girls, because also the media coverage is an important issue which impacts also the body images of the young girls. And so on my perspective, this would be important aspects in the area of communication which could support girls and women in sports.
Thanks. Since you mentioned of the media, over to you, Jens. How does the media influence the way athletes communicate with the public and the broader sports community? Can you provide examples of media-driven communication trends in sports? You can't hear, you're muted.
Okay, I hope this helps.
Yeah.
Allow me just to first have a very general, maybe very obvious remark, but I think it's also very important when we talk communication. We can talk about communication in many forms, but what is the use of communication if we don't have a substance to share? So one of my great concerns right now is actually that with the development of communication tools, technologies, forms, formats, we have not really seen a development of the content we communicate when we talk about sport. Or rather, I would say there is, of course, development on all areas, but mostly what the communication development has served is to further focus on a tiny little group of elite sports people generating huge income for federations, broadcasters, athletes sometimes, and in an economic system that is very often closed to the public. That's one of my major concerns. Now, when we talk about the athletes, I think we have a wonderful example about a recent example about how communication comes in many shapes and forms. We had a very, let's say, excited sports president, the football president of Spain, who expressed his joy of the women's World Cup victory by not only carrying the women around, but also as a culmination giving a kiss on the mouth to one of the decisive players in the game. This was his way of communicating his superiority and his joy, of course, also, but there was no doubt who was in charge there. Now then, by ways of more traditional communication, when the player said this was not consensual and she didn't like it, he tried to coerce her into signing up for a press release and, in which she confirmed the consensuality. And when she denied, the Football Federation nevertheless sent out such a press release, which just underlined that there was something much more at stake here than a kiss. Then his whole story was, by the general media, was his past, with a lot of anti-feminist expressions, a lot of transgressions towards women. This past was presented to the public via the media. And all along the road in this evolving conflict, because it's not over, this female football players of Spain have taken a number of communication tools. They have used a number of communication tools, and the latest is to simply deny playing. The great majority of the Spanish football women now have denied to play for the national team until there is a reform, deep-going reform of Spanish football. So it was just, I cannot, of course, this case has many levels. What was very, very interesting was how, through various channels of communication, one kiss opened the way, actually, for discussing a much wider issue, which was the constant oppression of women in Spain in general, and in sport in particular.
Well, that's great, because Rosa Dickett-Miller also was into it. I think they have a bigger story to say since we have less of time. But let me come over to the athletes. Thanks a lot for sharing this information. And that's why I was wanting this to be recorded, because you said it's only something which you say. It's very important how this could bring about a change in terms of communication. In terms of I come to the athletes, Dr. Anil. In terms of the athletes, since you participate as well as you coach, but from an athlete perspective, how can athletes improve their communication with a team environment to enhance coordination and performance during matches or competitions?
Yeah, I think there has to be a triangular relationship in terms of communication, where the coach definitely plays an important role in setting up the team, and the duties and responsibilities of each player in a team matters a lot. And so there are diverse cultural differences among the players. So it depends upon the coach on how sensitive he communicates in terms of all modes of communication, not only the verbal, but the visual as well as the physical communication styles, which are important, and how the players are responding effectively to those communication strategies. So I don't think there is a one-way method of adopting a strategy by a team or a coach or an athlete. It depends upon the scenario of the team, the level the teams are participating, and the cultural differences among the players. So I think there has to be a good understanding, good relationship, which I feel is a long-term communication strategy, not an instant push-up where we can pump a team to a performance. So effective strategy has to be built by the coach, building up a team in terms of how responsive they are to each other, understanding their duties and responsibilities.
Thank you. Over to our sports psychologist. Motivation plays a significant role in sports. What are some effective ways coaches can motivate their athletes through communication? Are there specific phrases or approaches that athletes respond to positively?
Oh, it's a very interesting question. Over the years, I understand that often the kind of things that motivate athletes are pretty individualistic in nature. There are common things, absolutely right, but then there are certain unique things that are applicable to each and every athlete. One thing that I would say that apart from the content of what you try to communicate with the athlete, the timing and tempo of your communication is very, very important in bringing out the result. For example, if you want to make a correction or something, then you need to give the athlete time for that. You wouldn't do that just before the competition or just a week before the competition. So if you want to make a kind of a behavioral change or anything of that sort that would bring up an effective performance, then you need to find time for that. You have to give the time for the athlete to do that. So timing is very important. And also the tempo with which you communicate is also very important. For example, in the World Championship, Archery Championship, I was sitting with one of my archers. He was about to compete in his quarterfinals. So he was watching our women winning the gold medal in the compound event. So he was very, very, going high watching that. But he had a competition in the afternoon. So what I could do to motivate, I was thinking. Then I was trying to connect something in the past with the present, what he used to do just before one of the World Cup stages, which he found was not effective, which he didn't want to continue. Then I had to connect that with the present. And I told him when I wanted to tell him the thing, and that was so effective. He was feeling so good about it. He was not overexcited or anything of that sort, but he felt so much of positive energy. He later told me that when you said that, I got a lot of positive energy, which made it possible for me to compete with real true spirit and with real balance. And he went on to win the medal. He went on to win the gold medal. So I always believe that the timing and tempo of whatever you want to communicate to motivate an athlete is the most important thing. And I still believe that. I also discuss with my coaches when they try to motivate. I also advise them that you have to see the timing and you have to use the correct type of tempo in order to motivate an athlete. And they find it very effective, and we are doing okay these days with those strategies. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Anil, how important is clear and concise communication from a coach, especially during practice and competition? What strategies can coaches use to ensure that instructions are easily understood? Dr. Anil, are you there?
When you speak, yeah.
You want me to repeat the question?
No, I have heard it. Yeah. I think winning coaching is all about winning relationship. So if you do not develop a relationship with the coach and the athlete, I think no amount of your coaching strategies will work out. So it is all about communication. And when you speak about communication, I think the precision of communication, how concise you communicate is very, very important. Because overloading of communication is the biggest problem with the coaches. They try to pump in everything, which, as rightly said by Professor Soni, the timeliness of communication is very important. How much to speak, how precise to speak, how concise to speak. So that's very, very important. And that precision with an understandable language, making it simple, making it very timely, I think it's very, very important. And not putting everything into the athlete where he doesn't understand in terms of technique, or maybe using technical terms which can really spoil the communication and the winning possibilities of a team. So I think coaches have to be trained in that, because they very often do not know how much to speak, and they should also understand that listening is the most important part in communication, because athlete is the performer and the coaches need to listen and respond to see that the best come out of the athlete. I think it's a very, very important factor in coaching performance.
Thanks. Brody, what's the role of public relations in an ever-changing communication environment? Describe the importance of honest and direct communication in a world filled with false information.
So public relations, we're managing the information flow between an organization and its key publics, right? Those key publics can be anybody with a vested interest in the success or failure of that organization. And Jens, you mentioned just a little bit ago in your example, a press release going out that may not be absolutely accurate, or it may be skewing people in a different way. And that's not the role of public relations. The role of public relations is not to twist a story or to lie in any way. It is direct communication with the public of an organization. And in a world where we do have a lot of false information, we have multiple sides of an issue. In the United States, we have many different sides of a political issue. And so we get certain messages pushed a certain way, but public relations is supposed to manage that information flow in a clear and honest way. We need to trust that when an organization sends out a press release, that it's true and accurate. We need to trust when an interview is given by a coach or by an athlete or by an administrator, that it's true and it's accurate. And so it is important for public relations officers, community relations officers, to clearly communicate, to be honest with their public, so that we have that direct feed. If we go based on social media, or we go based on other conversations that continue to spiral, we may not be getting the most accurate information. So I think it's very important for public relations and community relations to hold on to that honesty and the ethical responsibility to give truthful information.
Thanks. Rosa, how can coaches and mentors effectively communicate with female athletes to help them reach their full potential? Is there gender-specific coaching strategies that are particularly effective?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Usha. For sure, coaches and mentors play a critical role, and also effective communication between coaches and female athletes is vital. And as we've heard already, the relationship is key as well. And coaches should tailor their feedback to each athlete's learning style on the one hand, to provide constructive criticism while nurturing their self-confidence as well. This is important. And so we also emphasize the importance of clear, constructive feedback and fostering mentor-mentee relationships, which are built on trust and open communication. And on the other hand, encouraging communication within the team is also an important basic for team dynamics. This is also an important aspect with open dialogue, or through active listening and with respectful communication. And it's also important to create an environment where this is possible, that every team member feels valued, ensuring inclusivity and cooperation. And this is also important. These participatory aspects are also important for the girls, for sure, also in youth sports. And it's important that they learn to voice their opinion, to ask questions, to express concerns, and to encourage open dialogue, which could help them to develop confidence, teamwork skills, and also a lifelong love for physical activity.
Thank you. Jens, when athletes or sports organizations face crises or controversies, how does the media impact the response and public perception? Can you share examples of effective or ineffective crisis communication strategies in sports? I can't hear you. Jens, you're muted.
Sorry for being so clumsy. Yeah, it's a very wide question, and you can. The two last speakers have mentioned the word trust, and if I would sum up the communication strategies of almost all international sports organizations and major sports events over the 25 years and more that I have followed this world, they have been experts in breaching trust, in destroying trust, and creating a great distance between a very, very small universe of extremely wealthy people who manage not only a very big economy. Some of these in the Olympic community, in total, it's $1 billion global, multi-billion-dollar global entertainment industry. managed by relatively few people. They also manage very important cultural assets that should belong to all people in our global community, but very few of us have really any possibility of influencing what's going on in the upper echelons of sport. And I think it's becoming worse. When I say it's bad crisis communication, it's because typically the response to every crisis is denial. It's a little bit like alcoholism. It takes the first step is no, I can handle my consumption, and they will say no, we are managing a wonderful product, people love us, and there may be a few rotten apples in the basket. Later they get angry, and they single out critical journalists or critical insiders, people who are not following the line from the top. Maybe sometimes they ostracize them, or they simply exclude them. For journalists are often excluded from press meetings, or they're not fed the communication that they need to do their job. And when eventually, in some cases, real authorities step in, public authorities, state prosecutors, to look at what was in this crisis, they typically find out that it is much, much worse than any critic had imagined. So we have a pattern of mismanagement in international sport to the benefit of the very few. If I may come back to the Spanish football crisis, it's not that the poor Spanish football leaders should carry the whole world on their shoulders, but they actually went further than just sending out press releases with false information. They sent out press releases where they accused the player that had been kissed of lying. And they sent out a series of photos to prove how consensually her body language accepted this kiss of the Spanish football president. I mean, I have never seen, it's many years since I've seen such unimaginable bad crisis management. And of course, fortunately, there was maturity now for the gender debate and the gender violence debate in the Spanish society, receptivity, so that the Spanish Federation did not get away, or the president did not get away with protecting himself. He says he will retire. I'm not quite sure what the formal status is, but he has said he will retire. But that will not solve the fundamental problem that there is a structure that needs reform. And unfortunately, when we come to that stage, we very rarely see the academics, we very rarely see the journalists, we very rarely see the politicians. Everybody's just focusing on a new scandal or a new crisis, and things can more or less go on where the crisis hit, with a few exceptions, I must say, like athletics and biathlon, who has made thorough reform. I'll rest here.
Thank you. Indeed, we have less of time. It would be so interesting to hear more about it. Over to Dr. Anil. What role does non-verbal communication, such as body language and facial expressions, play in conveying determination, motivation, or frustration during a game or competition? Because often we see in certain games it's non-verbal. Could you just justify that, please?
Yeah, I think it's a very tricky question there, because there are lots of cultural differences in terms of the body language and what body language means to each athlete. So it's a very difficult task for the coach to communicate, especially when we have the present trend of having foreign coaches who doesn't understand the culture of a particular nation, coming in and trying to build up a team I think it's a very, very tricky situation, because more than the verbal communication, you're often given limited space and time to communicate, where the body language matters a lot. So I would say it has to come with a bonding with how the team develops with the coach. Maybe, as we say in a communication strategy, they say, before I got married, I had 6 different theories of parenting. Now I have 6 children and no theories. So nothing may work out sometimes. It all depends on your trial and error in terms of what you meant to express. Is it being read properly by the athlete? That's going to be a very difficult situation. But of course, being a positive body language, communicating effective body language positively is very, very important. And the individual perceptions of it, the cultural diversity of a nation, all these are very important factors when we speak about the body language involved in the communication strategy, especially in between the matches, where you don't have a space of verbal communication, where everything matters is your smile, your look, your expression, and your actions. I think it has got a lot meaning for the athlete on how he has to exert and excel to the best of his performance.
Thanks. Because in a game situation, for instance, if it's a game of volleyball or football, you find the signals being given rather than any verbal communication coming in, and you find that how are they able to make the team, reach a success. So you find them giving certain signals, but in certain cases, thumbs up means different. So that's why we brought it up. But anyway, next to our sports psychologist, since I have a power problem, how do we address the fear of public communication among athletes? Rightly pointing out to what Rosa mentioned, fear of speaking. So may I request Dr. Soni, please?
This is a big issue, actually. I mean, I recently found out it's a big issue, mainly because some of our champions are teenagers, some of our world champions are teenagers, and how do they manage? But I wonderfully found that they were quite mature addressing the media after the victory. You know, they have been trained, they have been told what to be told. They have also done a lot of mental rehearsal about what to be told, and some of them have had previous experience. And one of them told me that I really looked at how those cricketers after the cricket match interact with the media, and I have learned a lot from that. I appreciated that. So apart from we telling them, they have a lot of material available on internet, which they look at and they watch and they try to understand what athletes say after winning a competition. And one of my world champions told that I want to hear the national anthem being played, Indian national anthem being played. That is what is motivating me, and I want to do it. So I asked her later, why did you say such a precise statement? Then the particular champion told me that this was something that I was taught by my coach. My coach has already always have motivated my saying that you should be ready to hear that national anthem being sung after winning a gold medal. So they are pretty trained, pretty they practice it. They watch what other athletes, champion athletes, speak to the media and what the content and the tempo of speaking, and also they always try to uphold the national element, which is very important because when it goes to public, they know that people are watching. So they're pretty aware about it. And I haven't seen a lot of problems. Of course, there were problems with language, because some of them are not that apt in English. So we had to have translators to communicate with the media. So that is one issue that we have, but otherwise they've been good. And they know what they are going to say well in advance. Once the match is over, they communicate with their coaches, they communicate with me, and they get an idea what they're going to speak in front of the press. So that's going good for the time being.
Thank you. So I'd like to put up the same question to Rosa, because in terms of communication, to speak up, to bring up the voice becomes a problem. So what do you think? What could you, I would ask you the same question for this. You asked in front of a mic, they said, no, I have a fear of speaking up. So in the same question to you, Rosa, please.
To speak up and to bring in, for example, voicing concerns, needs to build up a structure where this is possible. For example, it needs participatory structures where it is possible to voice different aspects of, for example, discrimination or unequal treatment. And there is an effective communication approach which shows different strategies how this is possible. And on the one hand, there could be athlete meetings where it's clear within a team that within an open communication, experiences are shared, concerns are shared, feelings are shared, and it's possible to do this within this athletes meeting. It could be also active listening, where coaches and sport administrators actively listen to the athletes' grievances without judgment. And it's important that they acknowledge the athletes' feelings and experiences, validating their concerns. But also to share the resources where sport administrators provide information about these resources available for addressing discrimination, for example, or facilitated discussions within open forums which are organized that athletes can engage in constructive dialogues with the sport administrators, coaches, or also stakeholders. So this is important as well. Advocacy is an issue, but also media and public awareness, that these channels, also social media, are used to share experiences and also advocacy thoughts. But on the other hand, it's clear to realize this means that the whole system has to take this goal seriously, otherwise it won't work. So also the communication within the different persons within the system is necessary, and you need to build up structures for this.
Here, Rosa. To Dr. Anil, coaches often play a mentorship role. How can coaches effectively communicate with athletes to help them develop life skills and values that go beyond the sports field?
Yeah, I think that's very, very important, because ultimately it's about a person leading a wonderful life more than the performance. A performance can be short-lived. Maybe after a peaking session of an athlete, he's a normal human being. So the communication of a coach is not only with the performance and coaching, it is about values, ethics, honesty, trust, whatever all good human qualities we have spoken about. So the coach has got a very important role on mentoring the athlete of the sport, maybe life coaching we would say, and that requires an intimate relationship between the athlete and the coach, apart from the coaching scenario. So I think wonderful coaches have done that, and they have created wonderful human beings who are champions. We have also had champions who are not good human beings. Sorry to say that. But then it depends upon what process of mentoring the coach is doing. So I think it's very important, because as a coach, I have experienced not all of them reach the peak. Maybe you have a very steep pyramid where one or two can reach onto the top of the ladder. All others fall in between. So what are you doing with the life of these individuals is very important. So more than the performance, I would say a coach has got an important role in terms of mentoring the person for life, teaching life lessons right from the early age in terms of honesty, ethics, trust, being a good person. I think it's very, very important. The grassroots coaching, coaches need to put this into mind so that it becomes a habitual process in the athlete. No matter what his performance, he's going to be a good human being for the world.
Thank you. We are about to, the session is about to get over, but let me come over to Brody. What is the message that you'd like to give in this? So for each one, from your perspective, what is it you could think the message to our audience, and you think something could be very important which you could share with us?
I'm sorry, can you repeat what is a...
Since we're coming to the last part of it,
Yeah.
What is the message that you could give in terms of the communication in sport from your perspective, not only for this audience, but also which could be beneficial?
Yeah, I think the one word that I teach all the time to my students right now is convergence. And we're having so many different areas of convergence within the communication world. We think of social media being the convergence between interpersonal communication and mass media, which is something we've never done before. We see convergence of journalists no longer just being writers, but also being on television, being on podcasts, being on, radio hosts. We're having coaches that need to do more than just coach. Now they are, spokespeople for their team and for their organization. And so many of these areas are converging, and people that study this, that research this, or people that want to work in this field need to have adaptable skills because of the constant convergence that's happening within the communication industry.
Thank you. Over to you, Rosa. The message that you'd like to share with the audience, please.
Yes, from my perspective, it's important to focus also on the different needs and the backgrounds, and also to build up within the communication an atmosphere of trust, but also of control as well, and to offer structures for communication where it's possible to voice the needs, and also to bring in on a transparent way all the problems maybe they're there, so that it's possible to find solutions.
Thank you. James, your message, please.
Yeah, I think it was very important what was said about improving the structures. So, and creating a culture where athletes are not just formally allowed to speak, but also feel that when they speak, they're taken seriously. There are, of course, I would say there are the very serious things, the whistleblowing aspect, where you can say that we saw from the US gymnastics case, from the Russian international doping scandal, that athletes were largely ignored and felt they were up against an impossible system. If I could give some positive examples of major global institutions that have really done something, I would say the World Anti-Doping Agency has made an investigations and intelligence department, which is really completely independent from the rest of the organization. So this is a place, and they have a Speak Up program, and this is a place where athletes can actually go safely. And there is a procedure, and athletes are well informed about the procedure. They know what to expect. In contrast, the IOC has had a whistleblower email address, I think it is, for about 10 years. And there is, nobody knows where the messages end. Nobody knows the procedure. Where will my complaint end? Will the people I criticize see it? Which people will take care of it? What will happen? There is, I have not, and also they do not make any reports about whether they have taken action on anything. So it's just one big mystery what happens at the other end of this email address. That's very bad whistleblower protection practice. The AIU, the Athletics Integrity Unit, is another good example, and International Biathlon also. But please note that these organizations only act when their existence and revenues are threatened by dramatic global crisis, not in one country, not in two countries, but at the international level. And those organizations who have not been exposed to such crisis have made very, very little progress. If I may just add, this was the whistleblowing where we really have big problems, but then there is a more general everyday involvement of athletes in communication. And you could say the general advocacy. And I note with great satisfaction that athletes are increasingly speaking up. They are taking risks, and some of them pay a high price. His name is Kaepernick in the Take a Knee, many have benefited from his Take a Knee action, but not himself, certainly. he was deprived of contracts. And that is, of course, the fear for every athlete that wants to improve the system in which she or he takes part and unfolds their career. That is, because it's such a monopolistic system, there is only one top, there's only one organization, there's only one World Cup, there's only one president, and if you're not happy, you cannot go to another handball federation or volleyball federation. They don't exist. So I have seen progress in recent years. The IOC has an athletes forum in October, and we are also working at Play the Game together with researchers and athlete groups all over Europe in a project I invite you to visit the webpage of. We are presenting our final report in a few days. It's called Strengthening Athlete Power in Sport, and you can find it via our webpage, playthegame.org. That was a little ad, sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Anand, from the athlete's perspective, a message.
Yeah, I think what all we have spoken is that communication is very, very important. And maybe we can say in a negative way, lack of communication ruins everything. So if that is understood well, I think communication is the major bridge in avoiding misunderstanding, in removing confusions, and providing a clear direction for the athlete. So effective communication between an athlete and a coach is of prime importance. It is also the basement for building a good relationship, and that requires time. So cultivating that relationship, I think, is the most important factor in the life of an athlete and the coach. Thank you.
Now,
Is there another
moderator
panelist that would
Josephine.
like to give us
Yeah.
that message?
Yep. I'll give my message now. I think I'm the one who has to give a message from the sports psychologist point of view. I think it is imperative to teach our athletes that winning is not the most important thing. It is playing, or it is doing the activity with the best manner possible. We in our team, or as a sports psychologist, I have never advocated any athlete of winning a gold medal or something of that sort. Never. I always ask them to do their best in a given situation. And in this team also, we have never asked them to win any gold medal. All of us, including all the coaches and the team management, always talk to them about performance, not about winning the medals. But in effect, we have got good results, that is to say. And about, we always have to think about, especially when we have the young athletes, we have to think about the growth and development of the athletes. And that's not always about winning medals, but about performing at the best level in a given situation. And we have always been doing that. And we have also encouraged them to communicate with the fellow competitors in order to gain confidence to face the challenges at the international venues. I still remember one of my archers talking to an Austrian archer in the World Championship. I was curiously watching. He was asking him, "Are you tense?" Just before the competition. I was listening to, "What are you asking?" I was just listening. Then he is telling him, "Don't worry, I'm also tense." But he was trying to tell him, he was probably trying himself to reduce his tension, talking to the fellow competitor. So it's a way how you communicate, breaking the cultural barriers, interacting with others, and try to develop your life skills and expanding your cultural perspective. All these are very important more than winning medals, actually. But of course, winning medal is a bonus, absolutely no doubt. And that bonus is not that bad, really. Thank you.
Hi team, I'm going to jump in here if that's okay, because I think we've lost Usha. She's gone offline. My name's Ruth Crabtree and I'm the person that is behind the Global Teaching events, and it's been absolutely fascinating to hear from our panellists from around the world, from both practitioners and academics. It's been really great, and I've been looking at the chat as well, and the discussion has been excellent and really well received. Unfortunately, it would normally be Usha that closes this session, but as she's still offline, I just want to pass on my thanks from ICSPE and also WASM to say thank you for taking the time out to all the panellists. It's brilliant that we've got academic perspective and also the practitioner perspective, because that's really what these events are about. So thank you for taking the time in your busy schedules. Thank you for all the people that have come online. We've got lots of many people from around the world. These events are recorded. Oh, I think we've got Usha back. So I will not, no, she's still not back. So I just want to say thank you. These events are recorded, so we will post them on the ICSPE website for people to get hold of afterwards. And we also will have another event in a couple of months' time. So on behalf of ICSPE and WASM, thanks to the panellists and thanks to the people sharing, and in particular thanks to the ICSPE office and Pascal, and also Usha for chairing it brilliantly. And unfortunately, she just lost the connection there towards the end of the session. But thanks very much. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.